25 years old, but it all started in my undergrad of college where I was doing educational outreach to the Baltimore community. So me and my friends would my other engineering undergrad friends would go into like a community school and just teach them about robotics, teach them about programming. And it was all really fun to me. And um, and then I graduated from college and I wasn't really doing it for like resume building. Like I wasn't just volunteering because I just wanted to build my resume, but I actually enjoyed doing it. So I thought, hey, like in my professional career, I want to keep doing that. And one thing I realized was that corporations actually have like tons of resources. You know, they have not just lots of money, but they have lots of talented and motivated people. Um, I'm sure you've probably heard that people say, you know, like the people are the most valuable asset in the company. So I worked for a company called Textron Systems, which is part of this larger $13 billion corporation called Textron. And I was just an employee there. I was just an electrical engineer there. And I thought to myself, how do I get these corporate resources into the communities that need them? So as you guys might know, Baltimore is one of the, you know, I don't want to say broken cities. I want to say it's like a potential city where there's so much potential that Baltimore has. There's so much people who need help and people that have potential. It's not that, um, it's not like a city full of rats, you know, like like Trump called it, you know, like I mean, yes, there are rats in Baltimore, but it's not like we're not like a rat infested city with drugs and homelessness everywhere. It's not like it's not bad like that. And in fact, it's it's very nuanced where there are parts of Baltimore. They call Baltimore a checkered city, where like a checkerboard, there's areas of wealth and areas of poverty, and it just goes back and forth. You know, it's not like most towns where it's like you have the poor area of town, like the east side, and the west side might be the wealthy side. But Baltimore is a checkerboard city where one minute you could be in a very wealthy neighborhood, you walk a few blocks, then you're in a very poor neighborhood. So that's one of the things that makes Baltimore unique in the sense that, you know, when you're trying to get resources to where people need resources, it's kind of like easier to distribute those resources to people in need. And me working at my corporation, my brain was constantly thinking, how can I get these, like, I really believe like you have a position for a reason. You know, everyone is placed somewhere for a position, whether you're a teacher, you're working in government, you're working at a fast food restaurant, you're working in retail. No matter where you are, like there's something that you can do and there's something that you can offer to the world. So I thought to myself, I'm an engineer working for this huge corporation, Textron. Like, how can I use this position to help people? And I thought, well, I guess I'll just continue what I've normally been doing and just using my engineering educational outreach. And that's kind of what I did. And I did that through my company, and it took a lot of effort. It was actually harder in a corporate environment than it was in an undergrad environment. And I think the reason for that is because universities are kind of places of learning where they're not so concerned about money, but they're more concerned about development and growth and impacting the community positively. I went to Johns Hopkins University, which has a kind of a tarnished history with the city of Baltimore. So anytime there's an opportunity to reach out to Baltimore, you know, Hopkins will immediately jump on the opportunity. So when I went to my undergrad electrical and computer engineering department, and I said I want to do educational outreach, you know, people kind of jumped on that. I worked with other organizations within the university, and they helped out too. So I found out, hey, this is great. Like, it's so easy to just reach out to the community. But when I got into the corporate environment, I found it was very different, where people aren't so supportive to reach out to the community. And I mean, it kind of makes sense when you think about corporations. Corporations are they're only focused on the bottom line, right? They're focused on generating revenue for shareholders and all the stakeholders. You know, they want growth, but they're always thinking about what's the return on investment, right? So if I say I need $10,000 to do educational outreach, the corporation is going to be thinking, what's the return on investment? Am I getting $10,000 worth in return? So it was very difficult, but I did lots of lobbying, lots of meetings, lots of PowerPoints, lots of socializing within the company. And eventually I was able to get $10,000 in funding to do education outreach. And me and some coworkers and some college students, we just went into a rec center in East Baltimore, which is a very rough neighborhood. And we just did what we did during undergrad. We just did educational outreach. Now it was at a it was very interesting because it was at a much higher level because I got my degree and I was a professional engineer. So there was a very high level of engineering that was going on, and the college students were actually confused because it was too difficult for them. But then it was also kind of at a lower level for the kids that were at the rec center because we couldn't do like advanced FPGA programming that the college students were doing and that the professional engineers were doing, but we were kind of bringing it down to the level that elementary school students could handle. So if you look through my website, you can see kind of pictures of the kind of advanced engineering projects that we were working on. But we also kind of, like the idea is, the younger kids won't understand these advanced engineering projects, but it's going to kind of spark a creativity for the younger students to be like, wow, that's really cool. Like they obviously won't understand it because it's at a much higher level, but it's supposed to spark curiosity. And the idea is to build a mentorship relationship with a young professional or a college student with the younger kids at the rec center, and to do like easier projects that they can do. So that's kind of how little backstory of how Wbetet came to be. So one of the things I realized was that getting funding through corporate. Are there any questions, by the way? I don't know if I want to talk for 20 minutes straight. Are there any questions so far?
Any questions for Peter?
Okay. Okay, if there's no questions so far, so I realized getting corporate funding was very difficult. So I realized it'd be better to start a nonprofit called Wbetet. And the reason why is because getting corporate funding to do activities, there's just a lot of hoops to jump through, but corporations donate to nonprofits all the time. So I said, hey, like, now that I kind of, and I've been around the block a few times, like I've volunteered at many organizations all across Baltimore. So it's like, I know that there's organizations that might be similar to Wbetet, but I kind of have this unique approach where it's engineering and arts mentoring for youth in Baltimore. There's so many organizations in Baltimore that some of them will be overlapping, but my organization is kind of meant to just focus on the mission statement that I placed on my website, which is where it's like a potpourri of people bringing resources to places of need. Like that was my main point. Is I'm not trying to start my own nonprofit just for the sake of starting a nonprofit. I'm not trying to do some tax evasion strategy where I'm going to pour all my money in so I don't have to pay taxes. I'm not trying to just make myself feel good about myself by starting this nonprofit, but I'm really trying to just get resources, like I said, lots of corporate resources into places of need and just kind of pooling together other resources. So the idea is we're going to be working with other nonprofits, other local, maybe local churches, local organizations. The idea is, we don't want to silo ourselves and kind of, think I've got the best nonprofit idea in the world. I'm just going to, put on my blinders and do it. But the idea is I want to work with other nonprofits in Baltimore. Like there's this other organization called Smaltimore that builds tiny micro shelters for the homeless. There is another organization called Blue Water Baltimore that does like nature preservation in Baltimore. There's another organization called B360 Baltimore, which they build dirt bikes. They use dirt bikes to teach kids about engineering. And that's how they form that mentoring relationship, because all kids, well, most kids would love to learn how to build and ride a dirt bike. And my passion is actually building electric bikes. So I kind of have this kind of parallel type idea where I'm going to be building electric bikes with kids and use that as a tool to mentor kids and use that to kind of spark curiosity in electrical engineering. But I realized very early on that many kids are not interested in engineering, which is fine. Not everyone needs to be an engineer. Not everyone needs to be a scientist, which is why I actually included art into the idea of the Wbetet idea, where it's called Whole Baltimore Engineering the Earth Team. And I couldn't figure out how to put art into that. I think it's already pretty confusing as it is, but it's all over the place because that's just how I am. I'm kind of an all over the place kind of person. But yeah, art was really important because I realized, if you think about the Renaissance period, art and science were very closely tied together. But nowadays we kind of view them as two separate fields where one kid might want to be an artist, might want to be a writer, a painter, a sculptor, where some other student might want to be a scientist, where they'll maybe be a mathematician or a scientist or engineer or doctor. And, I think we shouldn't be keeping them so separate, but we should kind of try to combine them so that kids can see the link between science and art and use that crossover to make things more beautiful. And what I mean by that is I'll just give you, okay, this sounds very like abstract and really crazy. So let me just give you a concrete example. But one example we did was I was trying to teach kids about music. So I was teaching them about music, but I wanted to incorporate electrical engineering. So what I did was I taught the kids how to build a speaker. So I brought in a battery, which is the electrical power source. I brought in a sound amplifier, which takes in the power and amplifies the sound signal. I used a phone as like a sound signal source, and I had some speakers to play out the sound. So like I was kind of using all of these kind of electrical type concepts and relating it into music. And the kids are really interested in music, and they're really interested in, hey, what makes music happen? Like, what are the parts, what are the components that allows music to happen? And I did like a tutorial for each part, like how the battery works, how does that sound amplifier work, how do the speakers work? And then at the end of the lesson, we all sang happy birthday together, and we actually recorded it to kind of just have the kids say like, hey, this is what we have. We made a recording of happy birthday. And after we made the recording of happy birthday, we use a software to visualize the waveform so the kids could see this is what happy birthday looks like when it's put into visual form. And the kids really enjoyed that. They could see their voices, literally they could see the voices, see all of that. And that's kind of what sparked the whole Wbetet nonprofit. How much time do I have left? I feel like I don't know how long I've been talking for.
Not a problem. You have just about 10 minutes. If you can also tell us more about the kids you work with and how they get involved and how you find the kids or the kids find you.
Yeah. So we partner with the Baltimore Recs and Park, which is their Parks and Rec department. And there's a place called Greenmount Rec Center that I have a close relationship with. So they allow us to use like their facilities to have like we go to where the kids are. I've realized a lot of STEM programs have difficulty reaching the kids who are most in need, because the kids who are most in need don't even have transportation. They don't hear about these STEM programs that the university is running. Hopkins has a lot of educational outreach programs, but a lot of times they have to go to the Hopkins campus, which isn't that easy for a kid in Baltimore who is just kind of feeling stuck, like. So that the idea is we go to where the students are. We're not gonna expect them to come to us, but we go to them. And we I've even like gone on the streets of Baltimore and just tried to just rile the kids in and just be like, what I would do is I would cook food for the kids, and I would use food as an attraction to be like, hey, you guys hungry? Like, come and eat this food that I just made for you guys. And the kids really appreciated that because they don't always have home cooked meals. So when I would go in there with food that I cooked for them and I invite them in, they come in, and then they get like a little lesson about electrical engineering, or it's not engineering, it's more just like electrical concepts that they can understand. But the idea is like, we pursue the kids because the kids that are most in need aren't looking for help. That's the unfortunate problem, is the people or the kids who need the most help aren't looking for help. So we're actually kind of going to where they are. Yeah. I can't really think of anything else to say. Maybe if you had some questions, Alexandra, that'd be helpful. That's kind of the whole gist of everything. We're just getting started, so we're in kind of like the brand awareness phase, and then we're gonna move into the like the fundraising phase. So I've been I've been trying to be active on social media, talking to friends, I'm very I guess well connected in the Baltimore community. So like I'm kind of trying to leverage all of those relationships to kind of get the word out, get the brand out. And that's kind of why I came on this Juneteenth New York broadcast, is because this is just one more way to get the word out. Because the more people who know about this, you know, I'm hoping it'll be encouraging to people and inspiring to people. Like just because, you know, I'm not guaranteeing success or anything, but it's just like I'm gonna go ahead first and try my hardest, and I'll do whatever it takes to make this nonprofit work. And it could be at a high cost. You know, starting your own nonprofit is quite challenging, I think, but I'm ready to take on that challenge. And think all my, although I'm young, I know I'm really young, feel like has prepared me to be the person to start this nonprofit up.
No, it sounds really cool. I know you're just getting started with this, so you got to focus on your local surroundings, but especially since I think a majority of the people here are from the New York City area, is there a way can be more involved with your nonprofit or their kids somehow? Is there some kind of remote way, especially in this world of quarantine, that they can be in touch with you? And are you
Yeah,
teaching kids virtually? And if you can
yeah.
speak to that at all.
Yeah, so we're not really doing anything virtually right now. I mean, I guess you can always virtually support me through money, which I haven't actually launched the fundraiser yet, so I'm not really looking for money, and I'm looking more for relationships, which I feel like are more valuable than money. So if you're someone who's watching this that's in New York City, I visit New York City quite frequently just because that's what's great about the East Coast is it's so easy. I frequently visit New York City and Boston because I have friends in both those cities. So if someone's watching this and just feels like, hey, I want to support this kid who's trying something new, like it can just be advice and mentorship. So if you're an older person who just has something to share, has something to say, has like a pitfall to avoid, that's what I would appreciate the most, for someone to just um, be willing to be a resource. And you don't have to be some super wealthy rich person to be a resource. Maybe you just know somebody who has a similar program, or you have kids that are interested in joining, and maybe we could do something virtual. I don't even know. Like I don't know how I would even do it virtually because I'm more of an in-person kind of person. But maybe you have an idea to share with me. That's why I feel like what I've learned through my career is networking is kind of more important than it's like it's not about what you know, it's who you know. So if anyone's watching that wants to support me, just reach out to me. My website is wbetet.org, and you can just send me a message. You can text me, you can email me. Literally just say hi, and just you can just say hi. I was encouraged. I want to encourage you, and that's all you need to say. And you know that will make my day, and that will give me more energy to keep going. So yeah, I don't want to ask for money because I feel like asking for money is we're not even at that phase yet. I'm more just like just trying to network and get encouragement and get ideas. And yeah, that's all. I've, I could ramble on forever. I think that was one of my weaknesses. I could just ramble forever. So I'm trying to figure out how to cut myself short when I have nothing else to say. Are there any other questions, Alexandra, or
I don't see any from the crowd, but please keep them coming. I do have a few follow-up questions. For those with young ones who they want to strongly encourage them to explore engineering, or even those that are younger and are interested in that STEM, engineering, art, collaboration, but they don't really know how to pursue that. How can they get involved in that way?
so I think for kids that like I think engineering just is kind of like this as a child, when I heard about engineers, that it just seemed like it just seems like this magical place. Like even I remember being like a sixth grader and looking at like the math that 11th grader does, and then it just looks like another language to you. And as a child, like the world just seems like this impossibly complicated place. So I think the best thing to do for kids is actually to inspire them and to give them confidence. So even though something seems impossible, like it's obviously impossible to like a 10-year-old to do any sort of engineering task, but then you need to give them a task that they can accomplish that will inspire them and build confidence. So I think it's really important. And I'm not an educator or a teacher, so this is where I think I could definitely use more support and help in is how to find task or difficult, appropriate tasks for kids. Because one thing I found is at the rec center, there's kids of all ages. They're like age 5 to 17. And I'm thinking to myself, how do I design a curriculum for kids ages 5 to 17? So what I end up doing is I pick somewhere in the middle where I'll make it like a middle school level difficulty. And I think something beautiful actually happens where the kids start helping other kids. So the intermediate school kids kind of it's still hard for them, and they can have the high schooler kids help them out who can actually understand it a little better, and they can tutor it. And if the high school kids don't understand it, so like there's this kind of this beautiful hierarchy that I feel like allows that can only happen in a group. Because if you're homeschooling your kids, you're just one adult trying to teach one kid, and like the kid's gonna be like, you're trying to teach me this math, like I don't understand it. You can understand it because you're an adult, and that's true. You're an adult. Obviously, you can understand way more complex math than a child can. But when you put a child in like a kind of age diverse environment, then it allows, you know, like a kid that's slightly older to help the kid who's slightly younger understand things better at a pace that they can understand. Um, and the younger kids will have no idea what's going on, but the idea is like you're kind of sparking that bit of interest and inspiration where it's like they don't understand what's going on, but they get the general concept and they're aware that it exists, which I feel like for younger kids, that's like all that you really need to do for them is just to show them that's, you know, like kids whose parents are doctors are just like, you know, like clearly going to achieve more in life. And it's not just because their parents have more access to resources, which they do have way more access to resources, but kids who have parents that are doctors just kind of like they're constantly seeing their um parents. Try to read the message. Oh, that's kind of offensive. I don't know who's saying that. If you want me to stop talking, I can stop talking. um I can't tell if that's a joke or serious. But is there any other questions, or should I just kind of be quiet? I don't know what the crowd is thinking. They're not saying anything.
Yeah, that also, I want to remind everyone this is also a family oriented um, event. So if we can not use profanity as well. Um, any closing thoughts, Peter?
Well, okay, I'm just gonna respond to the negativity because it's very easy. I'm a very hopeful, passionate, energetic person, and that pisses a lot of people off. And I'm sorry if that makes you mad, but I'm gonna keep being myself, and I'm gonna keep trying. Like Baltimore needs hope. Baltimore needs hope, and whoever thinks that I should just shut the f up, you know, because they think it's impossible. I like you don't even say why you want me to shut the f up. Like at least say something constructive that's criticizing me, because saying shut the f up doesn't mean anything, and it's hurtful.
Okay, I think we should move on to just closing thoughts and anything. I think a lot of us are very excited to hear about your organization and how you're getting kids of all ages not only to work and interested in STEM, which is a field that our country more and more wants, kind of is like pushing us to get into, not because just because I don't it's not as developed as maybe we would have hoped, but also I really like you were talking about with kids mentoring each other, the older kids mentoring the younger kids. I think that's also a very interesting and powerful situation. And I can also imagine um, there's people from all backgrounds because they're coming into your program to work, that it's not only just the age difference, it's also the background the the different, and just being able to meet different people and work with them is also quite the experience. Is there anything you may be able to talk about with that?
Um, Sorry, I was a little distracted from the message. Could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, just in addition, I really was interested in how with the kids, there's of all ages working together, there's this mentorship.
Hmm.
What about also kids, since it's not from just the school itself, it can be a group of kids from different schools. Um, do you have any experiences with that? From
So far we've kept it local. We haven't really expanded to other schools. Like this is a very small scale operation. It's only like maybe 30 kids. So, and I don't want to really think about including other schools just because like I'm only one person with a group of friends. So it's kind of like when you ask those questions, like they make me excited because I think, hey, if we could expand to more schools, that would be great. But I know my own personal limits that I can't like 5 different schools because I can't handle like 150 kids. So it's still very small. But if we expand, then we can look into more schools. But I'm trying to keep things like within reason right now, within my
Sure,
limits.
sure. I mean, even though you're trying to keep it local, if there are any educators not from the Baltimore area, should they reach out to you to see if maybe somehow the kids you're directly working with could virtually work with their kids?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah, I mean, I would love to actually visit New York City and teach a lesson on building an electric bike because I know electric bikes in New York City are way more popular than anywhere else in the world. So I would love to go to like if there's an educator out there in New York City, I have lots of friends in New York City. I can just crash at their place and I can bring all my tools and all my electric bike supplies and I could like do like a one day lesson on how to build an electric bike because I'm sure these kids see these delivery people like whizzing around New York City on their electric bikes, where most of these people they don't really build their own. They usually just go to an electric bike store and buy it there. But then the thing is, like, wouldn't it be much cooler to build your own electric bike and know how to maintain your own electric bike? So if there's an educator out there in New York City who wants to invite me into their classroom, I would love to do that, and I'll do it for free. You don't have to pay me. I just love doing it. So invite me in. I'll bring all my supplies and I could teach a lesson. I don't care if it's wealthy students, poor students, anywhere in between. I'm really just open to just helping any way I can.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about this amazing organization. Good luck. Um, Again, I know I posted the information, but can you please remind us about your website and how to best get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with me is just my website and emailing me. Like I said, I am trying to be more active on social media because I realize that's important these days for any organization to get publicity. So you could also follow me on Instagram at WBETET. And you can just follow my Instagram. I'll respond to Instagram messages faster than emails. So you can slide into my DMs and I'll reply faster. So those are probably the two easiest ways to get in touch with me.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.